evening. I trust that when the evening's over, you'll maybe have a better understanding of what is happening in Sicily, Italy, as far as the mission there and the endeavors that we're doing in reaching the migrants and also the locals in that work. So we're glad to have you all here and looking forward to what will be shared. Trust will be a blessing to each of you here this evening. Just by way of information, you may have seen the restrooms are in the entryway, so if you need those anytime throughout the service, they're back there. And hope you can be inspired this evening as we go through the presentation here. We're going to start with a number of songs by memory. I sing the mighty power of God. The mighty power of God that made the mountains rise. He spread the flowing seas abroad and built the lofty skies. I sing the wisdom that ordained the sun to rule the day. The moon shines full at his command, and all the stars obey. There's not a plant or flower below, but makes the glories known. And clouds arise and tempests flow, but order from thy throne. While all that borrows life from thee is ever in thy care, and everywhere that man can be, thou God art present there. All right, Brother Weston Knoll is going to share devotional meditation with us. Him and his family were there. Maybe we were the first family, first couple to live over there for an extended period of time. And so we're happy to have him here this evening and turn the time over to Brother Wesley, and then he'll lead us in prayer.
Well, good evening. Good to see each of you here in support of the work in Sicily, Italy. I'd like to read several verses of scripture here, make a few comments on them, and then I'll share just a few of our experiences there while we were in Sicily. Terry told me I had 10 minutes, so we'll try to keep it to 10 minutes. I'd like to read the last several verses here in Matthew 28. We know this is the Great Commission. Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Amen. So now as I look at these verses, most of us would probably say that we don't have the correct credentials to go out and baptize. However, it says teaching them to observe all things. And he says, Go ye therefore and teach all nations, And I'm going to say that probably most of us have a little excuse not to be involved in teaching. Now, we don't have to go to a foreign place, such as Italy, to teach. Teaching them to observe all things. We don't have to go. Teaching them to observe all things. What all does that include? I believe that can be a lot of things. I believe that can be all that pertains to life and godliness. Teaching them to observe all things can be a lot of different things. It can look a lot different for some people, you know. The mission in Sicily, there is not a lot established there, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying that when there's not a lot established there, it might look a bit different from family to family that goes there. It's not like you get there and someone tells you, here's what you're going to do and how to do it and so on. And so it can look different from family to family, but we go and we teach them to observe all things. So we were there for 3 months. That was in the beginning of 2019, last year. We were there, my wife and I and our children, and Hope Sicily was with us to teach our school-age children. And we did have Bible studies with the refugees. We got to know some of them a bit better, especially Lucky. We'll probably hear more about him. But I've chosen to share a few experiences that I've had with Danilo, or the translator who is there and does the translating for us. Italian is the main language there, and so if you don't know Italian, you can get around somewhat because English is their second language, and so if you're ordering food or something like that, you can get by most times. But depends what you're doing, you do need a translator. And I spend quite a bit of time with Danilo. He is a young man who grew up in a less than ideal home setting, and I learned pretty quickly that I could fully trust him as a translator. I have no doubt that he tries his very best to translate just as good as he can. Now, Danilo is not a Christian. I would say he is a very caring young man, but at the end of the day, he does not believe the gospel. And I would say he finds himself in a unique position there as a translator for the mission, because he's exposed to the gospel frequently. There's times where we would be out on the streets and meet someone who wanted to talk, and he could tell them all about the Mennonites and how we believe and so on. And it's almost as if he was preaching the gospel to others sometimes. And if I have it right, I think he translates the material maybe, or has translated some. And so with that, he's exposed to it, and he's translating it word for word and so on. So he finds himself in a unique position there, with being exposed to the gospel. And he's told me that he believes there are many faiths. And he said Christianity might be a good faith, but there's nothing that really sets it apart from the other religions, according to him. Well, him and I spent quite a bit of time together. One of the things that I did when we were there is I looked at a number of different possible apartments to rent and possible buildings to be used as mission centers there. So him and I went and looked at a number of these, and I enjoyed that kind of thing. And Danilo was always with me for that. And one memory that I have of him, we went to look at this one apartment, and of course the rental agency was there. I think they have a different term for it over there, but the agent was there who showed us this apartment. And after we looked at it, the agent wanted us to fill out some kind of questionnaire asking how he did, if he explained if he did his job well and so on. And I think if I would have been in Danilo's shoes, I would have just checked all the boxes, good, done. But not Danilo. That's not him. He painstakingly explained each little detail of this questionnaire to me. He wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what this was all about. It's just one of the memories that I have of him. So at the end of the day, Danilo is not a Christian, and I guess I feel for him. Him and I got along well. We worked together fine. And a very sensitive, caring young man who does not believe the gospel. He told me one time, he said, you just need to love, and that's all. And that was typical of him to say something like that. And one of the things that I tried to tell him is that no other religion out there can produce prophecy. And I explained how prophets in the Old Testament foretold future events, and then they happen. No other religion can produce that kind of thing. So we had this kind of discussion. And I gave him a book on Bible prophecy and so on. But he's still, at least to the best of my knowledge, he still is not willing to take the step to give his life to Christ. And one of the things, another memory that I have of him, I feel like I'm talking about just one person here. I'm guessing we'll hear more about some of the others, some of the other refugees and so on. But Danilo and I spent quite a bit of time there, doing a number of different things for the mission, setting things up and that. And before we part ways, we'd stand on a street corner. It was pretty common for us to stand on a street corner there in the city and just talk about life in general and so on. And I remember one evening in particular, I think it was dark, we stood there on the street corner and we got to talking about him accepting Christianity or not. And I would say he is groping to find something that brings stability in his life. I think he actually told me that pretty much in those words. And I told him, I said, suppose something bad happens. The worst case scenario that you can imagine. Say a major earthquake comes through and the entire city is destroyed. And we'd be destroyed with it. Suppose that would happen. I said, you know what? It would be okay, because as Christians, we would go to heaven. And his response was, in one word, he said, remarkable that we would actually have that kind of faith. And he went on to tell me that he hopes he can find some kind of faith that brings stability in his life. I said, well, here it is. Right here, believe the gospel. But he's just not ready. Didn't want to take that step. He said something to the extent of he needs to figure it out before he can believe it. He needs to understand more about Christianity and so on. So, anyway, part of teaching them to observe all things. I guess I could tell many more stories about the refugees and some of our experiences with that, but I felt led to share a little bit about some memories I had with Danilo there. And as far as I know, he does continue to translate for the mission, still involved there. And so in some ways, it seems like God has presented a mission field to us just with him being involved with the mission. And so, as I think about going and teaching, being an example for Christ, again, we don't have to go to the four corners of the earth, or to the far corners of the earth to spread the gospel message. We can be witnesses for Christ in everyday life at home, too. So the gospel will go forth, the church will continue to be built. I believe there will be a faithful remnant alive on the earth when Christ returns. So you could ask the question, will we be involved in the work of evangelizing the world for Christ? Will we be involved in it? So at this time, I think we'll stand for a word of prayer. Shall we stand? Our Father in heaven, we pause before you this evening. We thank you for another day, for the gift of life and health and strength. We thank you that we can look to you. We thank you for sending your Son to die on the cross for our sins and for the sins of the whole world. We thank you that the gospel is for all mankind, for those on the other side of the globe. We pray for the work of the mission there in Sicily. Pray that we ask your blessing upon it, and pray that you would prosper the plans there. And I pray for the refugees as they come. Many of them come with not much more than the clothes on their backs, and so we just pray that you would meet their needs as they turn to you. I pray that they would find you faithful. Pray for the furtherance of our service here this evening. I pray that all that is said and done will bring honor and glory to you. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. You may be seated.
Thank you, Wes, for sharing those inspirational verses and also some of your memories of Danilo. He does still do translation work for the mission and helps us out in business and so on when we need to be able to communicate in Italian and can't. So someone needs to learn Italian. So maybe if you're desiring to take on a new challenge, why, there you go. Study Italian, learn some Italian, and you can go serve there. That'll be wonderful. We hope that becomes a reality sometime in the future. But Danilo is a very conscientious young man, and yet, as Wes said, he's not a Christian. He's open to the gospel, I believe, to a degree, but hasn't been able to make that step. And so we pray that as he continues to see Christianity worked out, we can speak to him. Hopefully someday he can make that choice. It's been about 3 years since we first went there to initially to visit there in the island of Sicily. So as far as mission efforts go, we're maybe in the baby stages yet to some degree, for sure. But in seeing God work in various ways, why, it's definitely a blessing and encouragement for us to continue on, and we hope that you catch that vision as well here this evening as we go through the presentation and we learn more about what's happening there. So I think at this time, we're going to turn it over to Terry Bauman. He has some pictures of some of the history of how the migrants get there, why they're there, and then on into some of the things that we've been involved in the past and hope to continue in the future. Things continue to change, and probably the latest twist is the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has really kind of created some challenges with travel and everything. So, but I'm confident that God has a plan, even in spite of COVID-19. And there was a time here this year, a number of months, where no one was there at the mission center and there in Sicily because of the pandemic and the travel restrictions. But Mike Martin is back, and I think we'll hear a little bit from him. Yeah, we will towards the end. Some updates, and we're hoping that we continue to make some progress, which is really in that area. Also, partway through Galen Martin, our treasurer for the board, is going to share a financial statement and update a little bit on some of those items, and then we will get an offering. And then following that, Andy Van Pelt's plan to share. Him and his family were there back when the pandemic all broke loose, and kind of made a hasty return to the States, thinking it would maybe only be a couple of weeks. And here we are, a number of months later, still grappling with the whole pandemic thing. So, yeah, we'll turn it over to these brethren at this time for a lesson.
Good evening. Greetings in Jesus' name. I really appreciated the opening so far that Wes shared and were shared. And I just wanted to say that anything we say tonight won't, and pictures, they're not the most professional pictures. They won't take the place of you visiting there in person if you're considering that. And also, it's like I was talking to somebody yesterday. They said we're called to be the hands and feet of Jesus. So you'll see different examples of that. And just I'll start with the opening slide here. Maybe we could have the lights. This here is a verse that went through my mind one time when we were flying leaving Catania and headed north toward Rome, and probably about over Sicily. You'll see the maps then, but I was probably full of emotion, maybe a few tears. Just a very eventful trip, and had been texting Lucky down the runway. Had to turn my phone off, and again, it's the parting, the whole parting thing, and this verse went through my mind that it's not by our might or by our power or anything like that, but by the Spirit of God that all this is possible. So we don't take credit for any of this, and there'll be different personal experiences shared tonight, but I want to guarantee you, if you go over there with an open mind and get on the level of the refugees and locals, you will experience things that you never thought you would as well. So, all right, I'm going to just pull this mic down a little bit. And the next. All right, so a little overview of tonight. We're going to look at where is Sicily. Geographically, for those of you that like to know geography a little bit, where do the refugees come from? We do get asked that question from time to time, and we'll take a look at where most of the refugees that we associate with come from. The journey of a refugee, and in that journey we'll look at a typical sea rescue. This is not the most dramatic sea rescues that there are, but typical one. Refugees' life in Sicily, you'll see some different pictures of that too. The pictures, we don't get inside the camps yet. We're not allowed to, so we basically, you'll see some of that anyway. And how can Anabaptists help? You'll see different examples of that as we go through the evening with the various sharing, and then some recent developments. As recent as possible, like Brother Dave Mark said, we haven't been really up and functioning much since March, and so recent developments might still include things that happened about a year ago, but we will try to include some very recent things. So Sicily is located in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. It's considered the largest island. It takes roughly 3.5 hours to cross the island from east to west, and around 2.5 hours to drive it from north to south. You can see, okay, we'll get back there again. Generally, we leave here from East Coast America. It takes about 9 hours to fly over there, 8 or 9, to land in, say, northern Rome, northern Italy, or Switzerland, or France, or somewhere. We don't generally fly directly into Sicily. There is maybe one flight that does that, but not where we go. Leave, then the next flight's generally about 2.5 hours. Then that takes us down into Catania, which is the big city on the east shore there where we're headed. That's the international airport. There is another international airport up in the north there, in the capital city, called Palermo, but we generally have been using Catania to land in because it's closer to our mission base. And then after we landed in Catania, we traveled by land up the eastern seashore there to the northeast tip of Sicily, which is where Messina is. And that's kind of the coastline there, generally some very good scenery. There's Mount Etna in the distance. It's a snow-capped mountain with a volcano, and that's the Mediterranean Sea there. So we arrive up in Messina, and Messina is about 1.5 miles, roughly. Seems a little longer than that, but that's what they say, from the mainland of Italy. That's the tip of the toe of Italy. If you recall your geography from school, Italy is shaped like a boot, and that's the toe that would kick right into Messina. So, one question I had is, which Bible character sailed through the Strait of Messina? Anyone care to tell us? Yes, Paul. Yeah, if you look at his journey to Rome, he started over there in Jerusalem, and you know the story, went past Crete, and they were lost at sea, and then crashed into Malta, and then they got another ship, went north to Syracuse there on the east shore of Sicily, well, toward the south, and then the Bible says they went up to Rhegium. Does anyone know what Rhegium is called today? It's called Reggio Calabria, and it's right across the water from Messina. And so you can read all about that in Acts 28 there. It looks like the screen's cutting things off a little bit. But anyway, so that's the Bible verses talk about Rhegium, and then after they were there a day, and they went up to Puteoli, which is up near Naples. Anyway, this is a view from Reggio Calabria, from the beach there, facing Messina, across the water. So it's kind of interesting to think, where did Paul dock here, or beach his sailboat? I'm not sure where, maybe what it is, but that's another view from coming down the mountain behind Messina to the west. So that's Messina down there, and across the water there is mainland Italy, where there's actually two towns. That might be San Giovanni, another town, I'm not sure, but Reggio might be off to the right a little bit. But anyway, just another picture that I had there of sailboats going up through the strait there, where Paul sailed, standing here on the shore of Messina. This is just a quick picture of the tip of Sicily. It's not Messina anymore. It's called a little town of, it's called Fire Tower. Torre Faro. It sounds like that, kind of. So where did the refugees come from? Down in southwest, mid-south, I should say, West Africa. In these countries like Nigeria is a big one. That's where Lucky is from, and numerous people that we talk about are from Nigeria. There's also some from Ghana, and then these other countries that are mentioned. Their first journey is to get up to Libya. These other countries at the north end of Africa won't let them through generally, so they know they have to get to Libya. From there, they have to get out onto the water, onto a boat, and then hopefully to get up to Sicily and onto Italy. So what's their first challenge? Their first challenge is to get through the Sahara Desert. And as you know, the Sahara Desert is that, it's desert. There's really not water, except there's some oasis somewhere. But yes, there are numbers of them that die from lack of water and heat exhaustion. Hopefully they have some money when they left home and can hire a driver to hitch a ride on a truck, whatever it takes to get a ride. Maybe if a little truck can't take them, a bigger truck can. And when they get to Libya, all is not well. They find out that life in Libya is hell on earth, so to speak. There's a lot of beatings and murders, and men are sold into slavery, women are kidnapped and abused, and so on. It's really the one objective is to get out of there as fast as they can. But if they don't have any money, they have to work sometimes to earn money and so forth. They will get put out onto a vessel like that, a rubber dinghy. Most of them have not seen water like this before, and they're petrified. But they do it because they don't want to go back to where they came from. They figure it's better to die at sea than to go back where they came from. No life jackets. Some of them are pushed on there with gunfire, shooting over their heads to get them on there. And it's 300 miles or so to Sicily, so they'll never make it. They need to be picked up by rescue ships. And this is a ship that's in the middle, or a dinghy that's in the middle of a rescue. You can see there's a rescue worker down there in the corner. It's starting to sink. They have life jackets on already. And I do have a video clip here of a sea rescue that really resonates with what we've been told by many refugees. So hopefully the sound comes through okay.
So we see there are just mass manufactured very fast and very poor quality. They will never make it. Sometimes they don't even make the 20 nautical miles line.
Okay, copy, just now requesting position location.
So it's 20 past 8 in the morning on Saturday morning. We've had a call about a rubber boat in distress. It looks quite a full rubber boat. We should be there in about 10 minutes. And we're going to go and start the rescue now.
Well, the boat looks like it's in good condition. But the moment we do it as a normal rescue, any question about this?
The material they use is thinner than the inner tube over a bicycle. 120, sometimes even more people inside, where they're actually made for half of the amount of people.
Speak English. Please come calm, okay? You're here to help, okay? Now stay calm. We're gonna bring you quickly, okay? There is a place for everyone in the big room. So please, just stay calm. Stay calm, stay where you are. And be calm. Slowly, please. You're both safe in this boat.
How many children are in the boat? 2 children.
Do you feel like these boats are designed to make it?
No, definitely not. They're designed to push the people off the beach, and for the rest they don't care how far they can get. The people on the beach, they know they can't make it. They know.
The smugglers?
They know they will never make it. I have the feeling that they just do it for the money. All the testimonies I hear is that we're desperate to leave.
Do you think any of these people that are coming across, do they know what they're getting into?
Some do, and some don't. And I've been talking to people that came on board with this vessel. They said, I'd rather die at sea than stay. Rather I die there than here.
And here's just another shorter one. Yeah.
So rescue is now complete. On initial approach to the boat, the situation was calm, but what we really noticed is there's a lot of people in this rubber boat. The team took them on board, we welcomed them, we gave them rescue kit, the operation went smoothly.
Hello, my friend. English or French? English. Where are you from? From Nigeria. What's your age? 30 years old. All right. Welcome on board.
The journey on the boat is really the last step in a very long and arduous journey where they've been subject to incredibly bad conditions. They've really been exposed to the sun, they're dehydrated, they won't have had enough food to eat. We also see people with signs and symptoms of beatings, women that have suffered sexual violence and rape and beatings as a result of trying to resist this. And also very young children, babies that are dehydrated, they've got lung infections, they've got skin infections, which are all a result of the terrible conditions that they've been living in Libya.
Well, first time I saw the sea, I was so scared.
You know how to swim? You must be terrified.
I decided to leave because I was seeking education for my children and I want to find jobs so that I will be taking care of me and my children.
I don't want to put back any please, even though I don't want to go back. I'm scared. And if I go back, they will kill me.
Okay, and then we also are told about ones that are making land in Sicily via sailboats coming all the way from Turkey. And I did some research on that. It looks like it's my brother-in-law Eldon's here. He's a sailor, but yeah, 817 nautical miles according to the sailing website. That they're sailing past Greece and so forth, but they're going for Sicily and trying to get in there at night on their beaches undetected. So, not sure if that's happening right now, but it has been happening. There's another way for them to get in there. This was the first exploration team from our groups. Some of them are here tonight, and they were over there in May, I think it was, of 2017. And, or sorry, what was it? And one of them gave my wife and I a pin to a park in one of these towns, a town called Messina. Our daughter and wife and I were planning to do a little traveling, and so we felt sort of called to Italy for some odd reason. Maybe we didn't know why, and then this came up, and so they gave us a pin. So we went, and Saturday afternoon we found this park, we called it. It's really called a piazza, and walked down through past several refugees that were sleeping there, dozing on the benches, and these fellows made eye contact with us, and their names were Kevin and Success. And we had some old Sunday school books along and got them out. And they realized we were Christians and we spoke English, and you should have seen their eyes lit up. They were just so overjoyed. And then we looked at some Sunday school books there. And the next day, they had brought more friends back to that same park, and so we had kind of been impromptu Bible study. And that's a group of Ghana and Nigerian men. We studied about Paul's account, the shipwreck in Malta, and so forth. They had sailed past Malta to get here. Malta is just south of Sicily there, so it was fitting Bible stories for them. We went back 5 weeks later from that weekend with Nevin and Colleen Zimmerman here from Schaefferstown. They were the one man, Innocent, his name, was pleading for Bibles for the rest of them, so we got a number of Bibles and took them back. The rental car was hardly big enough to hold them all. So we packed to the fuels there. That is Innocent in the middle there. He was later deported to Germany, he was taken to Germany and stayed in contact with them there for a while and sent him another Bible and so forth. He had lost that, and then he eventually got deported back to Nigeria, and he's back with his family now. This verse here was one that my wife found, one of the Bibles opened up to this verse right when we were parking to do the Bible distribution, and it's meaningful to us that God will be exalted in heaven and in earth. So this is the Bible distribution starting, and this is kind of meaningful to me. This fella here, Henny, his name is, he was at that first Bible study 5 weeks ago. At that point, a lot of refugees were going through there, and they were moving on quickly, so only a couple of them were still there 5 weeks later. Today, there is less refugees coming in, but that means there's less moving on, so there's still refugees in Messina. It's just that the flow through is slower. And this verse here came to mind because he had that Sunday school book that I had given him the first time we met, I gave him the teacher's guide actually, and then he came back to this Bible distribution in the park. You have to walk about 45 minutes to get there from their big camp, and he said he was teaching from it. So it was very meaningful, and then he got a Bible to go with it. Anyway, the pastor at the time, his name was Pastor Jeffrey, one of the refugees, he had asked the men to stay in a group there after they received their Bibles. He wanted them to all stay in a group, which they did, and they had a little prayer and praise session right there in the park. It was a challenge. It was an inspiration to us to see that, and thought maybe I had a video clip of that, but maybe I don't. But yeah, one of the men was even down on his hands and knees, just with praising the Lord over the Bible. This is actually a great video. I'll just play it. I'm going to play the whole thing. Just go on to the next one here. So before we left on that trip, we stopped at the camp, Gasparo, and they came out with this paper for us across the top. It says Hope Fellowship Church in Messina, Italy, and a number of refugees had signed it down the front and the back, and they wanted us to take this home and show it to our pastors or church leaders that they're officially requesting a church there. And so brought that home, and I call that the Messina Fall. The Bible talks about the Macedonian Fall. I was looking at it on the way home there. You can see we're about halfway across the ocean on the way home. Anyway, went back. Wes and Wendy Hirsch went back to the beginning of 2018 for a month, and he was starting to look for places and apartments and stuff as well. And we had joined them a few weeks later. And so by then, they were staying in a place called La Residenza, which is like a hotel. Actually, it's where Wes and Kathleen here stayed at the beginning of 2019. It's a hotel that has kitchenettes. Up until this time, we were staying in another place called Royal Palace that did not have kitchenettes. But so we were getting to more into buying food in the grocery store. So she was showing us around and showing my wife what are some things she buys and so forth. And this area, actually a lot of Italy, but this area, their desserts are their big thing. Those of you who've been there know that. Their ice cream is great, they have cannoli and all that. So, and fruit and vegetables, locally grown. And had to say goodbye to Wes and Wendy. We enjoyed spending about a week or so with them. And anyway, on that same trip, this was about, beginning of 2018, maybe about beginning of February, I got in touch with Danilo over the internet, and so he agreed that he would probably want to work for us. We met him there in La Residenza, and he agreed to work for us. And like Wes was saying, it's been a very good experience. Unfortunately, he's not a Christian, but he's a very dear friend that I talk to. Should try to talk to him more, but yeah, we talk probably a couple times a week on average, and had a lot of good time together. He, like Wes said, he started doing almost like our witnessing for us. So these were townsmen that had been observing our people coming over there, like from 2017 into early 2018, where we are now. There was different groups that visited, but we could hardly talk to anybody. But we had services in the park with the migrants. I use the word migrants a lot because the refugees are sometimes offended by the word refugee, so we try to use the word migrant. So you might hear we use it interchangeably. But they had questions about who we are and what we believe. So now when Danilo was with us, they recognized him as one of their own, so they could ask him questions about us. And yeah, they seemed suited with it and what we believe. This is Danilo's mom, Jay Kreider, one of our board members was over there. This was a little bit later, but his mom is very supportive of him working for us. She feels he's a lot happier and found some purpose in his life. and just a refugee boy. I think he's a French-speaking boy, so probably not from Nigeria. In one of the children's camps there, this is some of the girls that were over, Marissa and Emily, with these are Lucky and Joy's daughters. So here, that's not single Lucky that we talked about. There's a married Lucky as well that we met, Jonathan and Colleen. Gary is showing a children's book from Cam called 25 Favorite Bible Stories to some Muslim boys. They wouldn't accept Bibles, but they would take the Bible story books, and we are getting that translated into Italian as well. We have it translated, Danilo did it, got it reviewed, and then I guess you'd say re-reviewed by some Christians there, and now it's back in Cam's lap to translate it. That's the book there that I'm talking about. One of the things in 2018, we did go to visit the mayor. That was a lawyer there that met us on the street and wanted to help us. He thought if we're looking for places to rent, we should maybe go to the mayor, see if they had some places. So Neil and him are talking. We were waiting on the mayor to come, or his assistant to come and get us. I was a little nervous, not sure what we're all going to say. These verses went through my mind, taking no thought how or what you shall answer, or what you shall say, for the Holy Spirit shall teach you in the same hour what you ought to say. Well, the mayor turned out to be a very low-key man. His name's Renato Alberini. This is the lawyer here, but that got the appointment with him, and he had a very large office, very down-to-earth man. He did ask questions about us. Again, Danilo did amazing in answering, translating, and he said we have a lot of things in common. He's a very new age man, as you can see. The church he's not a Christian, but he thinks we're doing good things. He has a lot of sympathy for the refugees. He's not the mayor there anymore, but he did a lot for the city to get rid of homelessness and stuff like that. So anyway, we found out that the migrants do really well with playing games too. They need games to help relieve stress in their lives and play together. Here's Richard, you might have heard his name, we might talk about him later, and Clement, I forget what these fellows' names are, but here's Jay, and one of our trips he was playing, I think he was playing cricket with some youth from Sri Lanka along the seafront there. Elman Worst, one of our bishops, meeting, that's Lucky, the single Lucky. You've heard about him, you might hear more about him. Having a Bible study, here's Jim Stalfox, who's here tonight, and his wife there. No, who is that Jim right beside you? Clement? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I couldn't wait to make that out. And here's Jay and Mike sitting with a bunch of migrants. And you might wonder, is sitting on park benches a lot of what you do over there? Well, it's not, but you know what? That is really important to them to be able to listen to their stories. They have nothing to do, and one of the things I think we are told to do is help them pass their time in a wise way and to learn how stories, share Christ with them, and hopefully as we're there longer we can find more constructive things to do. But they're not allowed to work, and we're not allowed to work, so we're trying to figure out what to do. This is Danilo looking at a published book that he translated from Grace Press. What every person needs to know in English. We might have a copy of it back here. We have a couple copies of things on the table, not really for you to take. There is newsletters here too. You can take the newsletters, and there's some picture books back there from some of the families that were over there. You're welcome to look through them. So he's admiring this book. You can see the glow on his face to see his work in a booklet form published like that. And these are some Italian children actually that have English Bible story books, but like I said, we're working at translating that to Italian, but most of them would learn some English in school, so possibly they can read them to some degree. Here's Danilo with another book that he translated called Who Are the Anabaptists? This was written by Dale Burkholder here at Grace Press, and that's the front cover in English and in Italian. And they do go like hotcakes, so to speak. Here's some Sicilian men that wanted them, and we hand them out on the train to college students when we're going to the next town, whatever. Danilo translating the words of some singing we had in the park here the piazza, same piazza we had the first Bible studies in and so forth. So we go today when we're not at the mission center. And then we're wondering what the words of the song mean, so Danilo is explaining them to him carefully, like Wes would say. This man here is a believer. He's from the evangelical church there. He walked through the park and recognized us as we do visit the evangelical church from time to time. This is later in 2018. The Hillcrest Nursing Home in Arkansas wanted to take a group there for their mission trip, so we've gone over there. And in with that, we visited a lady in the center of Sicily. Her name is Sister Rosalia, and you better call her Sister Rosalia. She's very strict on some things, and I guess you could say a little bit hard to please, but we had a good time with her. We were warned about some things like that. We were introduced to her by the Anabaptist mission in England, where she spent a lot of her time in England, and she knows the Anabaptists and Mennonites in England. And she also has, she has a home in England, and she has a home in the center of Sicily, which is about 2.5 hours from our mission center. It's out in the rural areas. This is Jonathan Lehman, one of our ministry in the Hope Fellowship, and he's having a devotional there after supper when we arrived at her home. We went there straight after the airport, so we listened to her talk for about 4 hours. I remember being that tired, I stood up and sat down different times to try not to fall asleep, but we've just been on the jet all night. So anyway, this is the Hillcrest group. This is a picture from the castle at Milazzo, and it's a very beautiful area there. To show you a few pictures of that castle, it's about 30 minutes plus some taxi, plus a taxi ride from the mission center in Messina. So this is on the north shore of Sicily. This would be facing north from the castle out into the point of land that it's on. It's built on a point of, or it was built on a point of land into the North Mediterranean. And on that same trip, we were having a service in the park. We were praying, and Danilo comes up beside me, and he whispers kind of loud, "Mr. Bauman, Mr. Bauman." He said, "That man that was the mayor is standing right over there." And I opened my eyes, and sure enough, there was the former mayor. Had brought his bike in here. He bikes around a lot, and walked right up, and he was standing right there beside Richard, actually. And there's Lucky praying. So he was there, and then he spoke with us for a little bit afterwards, and raised some eyebrows by the locals, I think, why the former mayor would be with us. But he told us to keep doing what we're doing, that we're free to sing and pray in these parks here, and he said even the trees will benefit from that. So he's like I said, he's a New Age person, but he does offer his support to what we're trying to do there, and has met us since then and always done the same thing. This is a multinational ball game that's just playing kickball here in the park. There's Africans and Americans, and I think there's a girl from China, and then of course the local Sicilian youth, a few of them. So one of the things on that trip, and probably other people have done this, was go down to the beach in the morning to see the sunrises, be over Reggio Calabria over in there where Paul docked, and Apostle Paul, and so it's a good place to go to get some quiet morning reflection. Take the tram, if it's running, take the tram all the way to the north end where the rails stop, and then walk a little further up there on the beach and so forth. If you thought Sicily was all town, well, it's not. The towns are all kind of around the outside. The big cities are generally around the outside. This is in the center. This is in Sister Rosalia's area. So we're back to visit Sister Rosalia again on that same trip. We've gone there with Jonathan. I wanted to see her accommodations because she was sure she could handle about 14 people. And I wasn't sure, but we went there with Jonathan's first, then swung back around to Messina, and then when the Hillcrest group arrived, we spent some time in Messina and then came back out here to end our trip. So this is the center of Sicily, very rolling farmland. This is one of Sister Rosalia's farms. She has a couple of farms there, and she would like to get rid of them. She wishes Actually, she had talked sometime like she thinks it'd be nice if the Mennonites would get them, but we haven't taken her up on that offer yet. There does seem to be some strings attached, but we were helping her. The boys young men from Hillcrest are used to accommodating elderly people, so Aaron, his name is Aaron, I forget his last name, was helping Sister Rosalie around her farm there. And we also were working on her olive trees and so forth to trim them. So, and there's another picture of some of her farmland and neighboring farmland there. Also carried wood into her house and patched her. Well, we didn't get much patching done, but her plaster in her house was falling off because there was a leak in her roof, and so we at least helped clean the loose plaster off while we were there. And did a lot of singing in the Messina area as well as out in the country area. We're in a few evangelical churches and to do some singing in various churches. And then this is the beginning of 2019 when things started to happen more. This was a group that went over, Davey, Irma, and Gary Beth had this youth group over there. And also with that group were this family, Wes and Kathleen. You heard Wes speak tonight. They went with this group to kind of get oriented, I guess, because some of these had been there before. And Wes has stayed on for 3 months. And I didn't give the video of this, Wes, but I remember thinking when this group came home, I'm wondering how you are going to fare. And I was praying for you and all. And then I saw that video you posted of your children singing, "Lord, make us instruments of your peace" from the balcony at La Residenza of your hotel room there, out onto the street. I think they were standing at the edge of the balcony singing to whoever was going by on the street. So that was great. I knew then that you were going to make it. Of course, with God's help, you were going to make it. But yeah. So appreciate everything Wes did to find us the apartment, main mission apartment, and also the mission center. He did a lot of exploring with Danilo and sent us a lot of pictures of different apartments with notes he would make up and then take a picture of. One of the things I know that he's did on that trip, he's helped an Italian lady with her tire, I believe it was. She had a flat tire, so another way to show God's love. These Americans helping them, these ladies with their car tire. This is the cathedral in Messina and the clock tower. You can go up the clock tower at certain times and walk around up there, and you can get a pretty good view of Messina. Somewhere we'll have a picture of the inside of this cathedral. It does sound good to sing in there. I have a video somewhere of some of us singing there, but didn't have time for that tonight. This is a night shot of Messina, not really kind of nicely lit. And in June of last year, Bev and I had gone over a couple days before this, and then we went back down to down to the airport to meet Keith and Julie Knoll. And he was going to be here tonight. He has a presentation. He had a presentation all put together, and then his grandmother died that lived on their same property. So he's at the viewing tonight. So our condolences to them, but he said we can go ahead and go through his presentation as well. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to switch something here on my laptop. And they were there with, yes, they brought this wagon over, and I got used a lot. We'll see in some more pictures. So they had 3 girls, if you're trying to figure that out, and had a good time. We did settle on the mission center that Wes had spotted when he was there, and he had started talking to the real estate or the rental agency when he was there. And this was the first time we entered it on our own. The refugees were delighted, and they wanted to sing a prayer. We sang a couple songs of dedication, and I had a prayer of dedication there in the mission center that day. So this is Keith Knoll and Danilo and Lucky Richard Clement and myself. And I'm going to just switch something here on my laptop. sure that it's not quite working like I thought. It's a different operating system and they have to don't want to mess up what I'm doing here either. Maybe I'll just see if I can get that going. Let me see. I'm just going to continue a little more. What time are we at? I think we're just going to continue here a little more. This here is a song that they were singing. So the migrants have their own songs that they like to sing, but they had said they wanted to start learning more of our songs, so we have a bit of a mix sometimes, but we do have some songbooks over there that we were teaching them songs out of. So that was one of the songs. Lucky is a pretty good speaker. This is Lucky. He met us on that trip with Nevin and Pauline. Nevin Zimmerman had spent a lot of time talking to him after that trip to encourage him and send him a phone so he could communicate with us. And yes, he's still with us today. He did move out of the Messina area up to the mountain. I'll have a picture of that a little bit later. And he does love to teach. He's a good teacher, a good speaker. Here he's actually going to go through this. He's getting prepared to go through this book with Keith. No, the book on, it's what we used before baptism and Hope Fellowship. And so he's finished with that book now. Various men had gone through parts of it with him as they could, and I know some of the bishops were over there and went through parts with him as well. Here, Lucky is meeting the former mayor again in the park on a later trip. Last fall, a group came to, a work crew came over, and this was about October, I guess, of 2019. And here's Lucky in the background, if you can see him back in there. He loves to cook, and he likes to make beef stew and different things. And he was picking vegetables out here at the grocery store. That's near the main mission apartment. It's called Eurospar. I suppose Amanda over there is keenly looking at all these pictures. Merlin and Amanda are leaving here in a few weeks to go over there. This is in the main mission apartment. This here piece of furniture is fixed right here behind Lucky. The door's falling off, but the landlord got us a new one. So Lucky's making some, I guess, eggs, doing some eggs there or something. They love, this is Destiny is his name. So he's preparing a plate for somebody, I think. They often prepare people's plates for them and then hand them to them. It's like their culture to do that. In the mission center, we were pretty busy last fall. We had this goal of having some English classes in there. And so when we got there, we were really busy trying to get that going. Keith and Michael Martin, that's over there, had done some drywalling here and basically painted all the walls, made it look a lot better. As you noticed in the picture, the first picture there had some ugly green a band of ugly green paint around there and stuff, and the floor was dirty. So did a lot of work there. This is not probably OSHA approved, but when you're on the mission field, you have to make do with what you have. You'll see it. One of the things that is really a blessing is seeing how groups build on other groups' accomplishments. So you'll see when Andy shows his pictures what they did that's a lot better than what we had. So each group gets stuff a little better. This is the Happy Store. If you've been there recently, you know right what this is. We were in and out of there several times a day. It's maybe a, 3-4 minute walk from the mission center. And Chinese own it. sometimes called a Chinese store. They speak decent English. They have everything from electronics to tools to screws to lights to drapes to blankets, office supplies, kitchenware. I don't know what am I missing. A bunch of stuff yet. But anyway, so there's the English teachers, Melody High and Judy Eicher. They're getting some supplies for their classes. And some young fellows here getting ready. They're making cookies for the first English class. Checking in the oven. Oh, we were anxious to use the kitchen, yes. One of the things Keith did when he was over there in the summer was found this kitchen at a consignment shop that's maybe a kilometer from the mission center. So he had worked, and Michael, I think, had helped get it installed. And when David Mark was over there too, we had done some stuff with the sink. And they're checking their stuff in the oven. We did get this here fixed when we were there. It's more of a cutting board top now because we moved the sink where it should have been over to another area because of the drainage, the way the floor drain works. There's Krista Gaiman making some lemonade for the evening snack. This is Melody High. I know she's here tonight. This is her traffic board with intersections and road signs. She's teaching people. That's her theme for one of her classes. Do appreciate when youth get out of their comfort zone like she did. She was going along with our group, and I said, well, you had English. You're TESOL certified, I understand. You took classes on how to teach English in a foreign country. Would you like to try it on this trip? And she said, yeah, she would. And so there was, I think some prayers are sent and maybe some nervousness, but parents at home that were praying, but it was a success, I feel. This is the pastor's wife from the Evangelical Church. She came to the English classes, and she was the first student there on the first night. The teachers are in the back here conversing. This is Frank. He's kind of like a sheriff, I guess you would call him. He is from the Evangelical Church and had come to English class. He knows English some pretty good. He wanted more. This is Judy, the teacher in that class. Frank had complained, and as well as some others, about hearing the teacher. He was sitting over here by the windows, and this building was concrete walls and tile floor and concrete ceilings. You can imagine it echoed like everything there. He couldn't hear, so we got desperate. What are we going to do for the next class? We were trying to put on a good impression to these Sicilian people, so we put some wires across up there and took blankets and put them on the walls and tried to get it to where it was a little better, which now Andy will show you what they've done that's a lot better. Oh, we also got drapery and put it on the windows to try and help that. And we thought we should get a runner for inside the door, so I see if I can play this video clip. When you don't have a pickup truck or a vehicle, we can rent sometimes, we do, but we use public transportation, and now the mission got these bikes. This was the first trip I was there anyway last fall that we had these bikes, and that was a real blessing to use them. This man's name is Tony. Him and a lady called Angelina run another ministry that does a lot with refugees, and he has helped us out in some ways. He's found a good mattress for us for the main mission apartment at a real good deal. I think he said it's worth €1,000, and he sold it to us for 100. I think somebody actually donated it to him, but it was a good mattress. Anyway, he found this whole wall unit up here, and wondered if we would want it for the mission center. So it was free. So he said, if you move, you can have it. One of his friends had to leave this apartment or something, and they didn't want it anymore. And the one thing is, it was up in this here building, way up here somewhere, in this third floor. But we were glad for able-bodied men. This is my brother-in-law Elvin. He's here tonight, and his son Michael. or some of the boys. And they said bring lots of men, so we took all the manpower we had, and then they had some refugees there yet too. So we got the whole thing down. And over to the mission center, they did have a truck that they had, and we paid them for the use of the truck and so forth. Got it all over to the mission center. So it was really nice to have a place to organize our literature. Before we had it in totes, and we would cart it all back to the evangelical church basement whenever we'd come home, when we were staying in the motel, because we didn't have any place to keep anything. And then after we got the mission apartment, that was really nice because we could keep the stuff in the mission apartment. Didn't have to cart it anywhere when we left. Well, now we have it at the mission center, so a little bit of progress here and there. These men are from Cameroon. They speak French, and they were just relaxing. They're reading French material that we have, while the women, I think they were their wives, were in the kitchen making food. It's a great privilege for the refugee ladies to actually be able to cook. They're not generally able to cook in the camps. Now, some of them get more into home-type environments where they can cook then, but generally they can't. At least these couldn't, for the most part. So, for the men being able to use tools again, to be able to sweep, just whatever, they really like that. It makes them feel a sense of self-worth. And here, for them to be able to do cooking gives them a great sense of self-worth. Also, in color in here, which is just good to relate with our ladies and pass the time and have time to build relationships. This was one of the church services we had there. It wasn't necessarily the first church service. I think Keith, Noel, and Michael last summer had the first service. If you want to go across the water to Reggio Calabria, you can take this jet ferry. That still takes about 40 minutes or so, I think, if I recall correctly. We've been across a few times. They have to go out around this horn of land, I call it, so the ships generally dock kind of off to the right of this picture. The ferry does, and have to come out around this horn of land before it goes over to the mainland, which you can see in the distance there now. That's like the little Statue of Liberty there on the end of that pier. Generally go past some cruise ships there, right there. They're just a few minutes from the mission center as well. The mission center is right on the other side of the building is from the bus station. So if you would walk through the kitchen, through the wall of the kitchen in our mission center, and you could walk through those walls, you'd come out into the bus station on the other side, and over there it's like a circle. The bus station, the train station, the taxis, and then beyond that is the ferries. So the transportation, we're really close to the transportation hub. I think what we're going to do is take a break now. I got a little bit, I was going to stop at the end of Keith's presentation, but I wasn't able to bring that up right now. I think we'll stop, take a break now, and maybe I can get that up for us while Dr. Trevor gives his talk.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be giving just a financial overview of the Hearts of Hope Mennonite Mission for 2020. To date, I've rounded off the numbers. I know it gets real boring with numbers. I'm going to just round them off so you hopefully can comprehend it a little better. We started off our checkbook balance at the beginning of 2020, $15,300. We had about $18,800 of donations coming in from the church, and an additional $43,900 that was donations received from individuals. Total receipts of about $62,700. Spent $71,100 this year so far, so that lets us tonight with a checkbook balance of about $6,900. Now the expenses for the past 7 months during this COVID-19 shutdown averaged about $3,000 a month. We still have the mission apartment, the mission center, we have a mission apartment, also another apartment 2 apartments plus a business center, then we need, of course, keep paying the rent and some utilities for that. So that was running us about $3,000 a month. Our projected expenses for this coming year, assuming that things will open up again, will probably be around $10,000 a month. That's about what we expect our budget will be. So about 30% of our support came from church offerings, and the other 70%, the majority of it, is actually from individuals, just like you. And we do appreciate the support that has been given. I'm going to just mention now, you might say, well, how do we make the donation? How do we help in this work? One of the easiest ways to do it is if you can make an automatic monthly contribution by taking a blank check, just write void on it, and put the amount somewhere on the check there, the amount you like to give per month. And we're going to be, after my done this talk here, we're going to be lifting an offering. If you have a check along tonight, you'd like to pledge to give so much a month, you can just drop that check, void the check in the offering, and we'll know, we have all the information on that, but we can do an ACH on the 1st of January and each month thereafter until you tell us to stop. We can take it right out of your bank account as a direct ACH deposit. So we don't have to write out a check. It saves us 50 cents a month as well. If you'd like to make your first monthly donation by check tonight, you have your checkbook along, you like to help, you can just make your check payable to Hearts of Hope. And if you would like to have it just for tonight only, just write the check out. If you'd like to have it that we use that same amount every month after this, just right in the lower left corner of the memo, just say, just put on there monthly. And we'll know that that's your cue that you'd like for us to take that out every month. And of course you can change, increase or decrease or discontinue that monthly donation at any time. I would want to say I want to thank you for your prayer support for the work in Sicily and also for your financial support.
There was a volcano erupted last summer on July 3rd, and I don't know much about it. Sorry, if Keith was here, he would be able to fill you in. Maybe he can at a later date. Here's their girls looking out the window at their jet, ready to leave JFK Airport. JFK is where most of our flights leave from now. I think our first trip was out of Philly, and some of us have talked about other, Dallas and so forth, but JFK, I think, has been one of the main ones. Here's another picture of Lucky teaching, and Clement sitting in the background there. Lucky loves children, so he's with Keith and Julie. He's holding Keith and Julie Knowles, youngest girl. Here they're in the park up in Castanea. This is where Lucky lived for a while, and he's not there anymore. He lives further west with some other refugees, and he works in a nursery. Lucky gave them this watch as a gift to their daughters. Here, Richard is speaking at a Bible study. He's there in the park with Piazza. Clement was a nurse in Nigeria before he made the journey to Italy. And Clement is somebody that told me something that I think I'll always remember. It was probably on the same trip. Bev and I and my wife were in the Piazza, and he came through there one evening. It's kind of interesting in the evenings to go out to the Piazza and just watch and see who comes through. In Italy, it's kind of their culture. People meet there and relax. And Clement came through on his bike, and there was no other refugees around, no other migrants. So I said, Clement, should we go for ice cream? I mean, the thing is, if you do something for one, you got to do it for all, right? So he was just him. So we went for ice cream, and we were talking about various things with him, my wife and I. And he said, it's what you do for us, with us, I should say, between church services that counts. So in other words, what he was saying, it's not just all about church, which is important, and Bible studies are important, but what do we do with them in between there? So this was a trip down to Taormina. He was looking for a job, and we had gone down there to Taormina is a tourist town between the airport city of Catania and up there in Messina. It's about 45 minutes south of Messina. And we go there to pass out tracts, and there's a lot of tourists and different people. Very scenic town. They had a because she would not comply with the sinful desires of her cat. But yes, she did have a baby later then on the journey. This is Dennis. He's in Messina legally. He's not a migrant. He's there with paperwork as a student from Nigeria. He's a Christian. And this is Papa Mark. He's the oldest refugee I know there. And this is the Camp Gaspero. We got off the bus to go to the evangelical church that Sunday evening, and we were a little bit early, so I called Richard and asked him if he wanted to come out and see us, which he did, and so they left the gate open here for him to step out and talk to us. This is the gated, it's actually an old army base, so there's, I don't know if there's about 800 men living in there, something like that. It might be more sometimes. It's about a 40-minute walk from our mission center. Michael with Usmund, I do recognize him from a later picture as well. He's Muslim. And this is her name is Miss Janetto. She's the daughter of the apartment owners of the main mission apartment. And here we just, this was after the signing of the paperwork for the mission center. It's kind of like, almost like a house settlement. They got all kinds of paperwork for you to sign. This is out to visit the Lucky and Joy family with their daughters, which is actually in the area where the single Lucky is right now as well, working in nursery. That's Lucky on the left, and yes, thank you, David Mark. Yam flour. That was actually pretty good, but this here had some hot oil and all that. He proudly brought out the bottle and showed it to me, but sorry, Lucky, I just couldn't eat a lot of it, but it was okay. Their girls playing together. And there's a story behind this man. This is the mission center that we rented, these 3 windows here. And this man right here, facing kind of toward the camera, had told Danilo when we started looking at it, he realized we were going to get it. He told him that he doesn't want any trouble from us. He's going to... Well, Danilo was pretty nervous about him, and I wasn't sure which way to feel, and we were kind of hoping to sign on this mission center, but talked to the board, as the rest of the board, we prayed about it, and decided to go ahead with it and just show the love of Christ to him. Well, today he's wondering when we can come back. When Michael came back, he's very helpful. He was soon helping Keith Nolt here. We had to leave the next day or so after this picture, but Keith Nolt buddied up to him. He grew up, his dad had an auto body shop, and he soon was over helping to clean the windows here with some special cleaner that he uses on cars. So he's still a very good friend today. One of the cars he was working on, and this was, they were doing some work in the mission center there, and they had Lucky and Richard helping in there. Like I said, they love to do work. Michael was doing drywall. This was a man that came to some church services on his scooter. And another Sunday morning service. They started having Sunday morning services there. The Chinese store, which we talked about, and another local produce market on the street there. Not an uncommon sight at all. And this was their neighbor lady across the balcony. I think he told a story about her one time that they had dropped something off their balcony from the mission apartment down into the courtyard, and they couldn't really go get it without bothering some other neighbors or whatever. And she had like a fish line with some that she used to get her stuff back up, so she helped them get something that they had dropped. This is the entryway to the mission apartment building. So Merlin and Amanda, you will walk these steps, and you will have the choice to either go up the steps to your left or up that elevator on your right where their daughter's standing. It's a small elevator, but it works. We used to haul groceries up. It was kind of fun to put all the groceries in, push the button and close the door, and then it would go up to the floor that you wanted and run up and open the door, and hopefully it was there. It isn't the most secure elevator, but I mean, it's not the fanciest elevator, but they work. So there's locked doors right behind the person that took the picture here off the street, and doorbells and so forth. It's pretty secure. This is a Mexican church, we call it. It's a little church, maybe holds 20 people. If we visit, it's pretty much anybody who visits, it's packed out. The ladies wear skirts, and they have segregated seating and a cappella singing, and the ladies wear veils for church. And I think they wear skirts throughout the week. They're as missionaries as well. And so this is the pastor, Norberto, and his wife, Sarah. She's from California, so she knows English very well and Spanish, and is learning Italian. He knows hardly any English. He knows Spanish and also knows Italian. So anyway, this is the buses they have in the city, and the bus map we use, the tram map. Anyway, the streets are a little more curvy than this, but this gives you a good idea. And here they're getting ready to go on the train. And please do not put your feet on the seats in the train. You'll get talked to if you do that. This is Taormina, another shot from Taormina, very pretty town. And the clock tower that we had talked about earlier. And this is a picture inside the cathedral there. And this was a chicken place they found. I've never been there, but some rotisserie chicken place that they got chicken sometimes. And gelato, if you like, this is like a creamy ice cream that's whipped. I asked my wife, how should I explain this ice cream to the people? I think that's what you said. So most of you here that have been there, I think, like it. It's just the question, which flavor do you like? Most everybody I know likes something out of there. Anyway, that's just one of the stands they would have there. I mean, there's those kind of ice cream places are all over the place. That's not why we go over, but it's one of the perks. It does taste good on a hot day. It does get very hot here in the summer, like over 100 degrees. So they would hike up to some spots to overlook the city. Here he's talking about the cruise ships that are docked, and they're enjoying the Mediterranean Sea. I was trying to figure out where this is, but this is just very close to the mission center. There's a ramp that goes up here, and if you turn left and go down there, you go into the city, and then turn right, you get the mission center. Or you could walk down the beach here and turn in and go to the mission apartment. So, it's, of course, this is San Giovanni over here, and Reggio Flavio would be down there. So I feel like I didn't do justice to his pictures. If he was here, he would be able to share a lot more experiences. But we do appreciate what Keith and Julie did. They were there. He's a school teacher, principal, and so they fit their trip in last summer between his school teaching responsibilities in the summer. And I think they're looking forward to going again sometime. This is some fire boat, I think, some fishing boat, and they found a small park for the girls to play in, and Michael was living there along the water. The Milazzo Castle, I showed you a picture of that. Just some more pictures of that. From the north side of the castle, and the group that went to the castle, Danilo and Richard. This is when they bought the bikes, the mountain bikes. They were very practical. Looks like that's the end of his presentation. One of the experiences that happened to them that I feel is very valuable is you saw that red wagon there, and so we talked about it that if we need to buy tools, we wanted to get a Makita drill set. I think it was, or was it Milwaukee? It doesn't really matter. I won't get into that argument here. I don't use tools like that, whether it should be Makita or Milwaukee. And we thought, well, we might as well just buy them right there locally in the same square as the mission apartment. There's a tool dealer that we walk right by, and we could go down to the next town and maybe save some money, but if we buy them there, we'll build a relationship. So Keith bought the set of tools there from the tool dealer, and a bit later, his wife was coming down the sidewalk on the other side of the street. Keith was not with her, and she had her 3 girls. Over this little not cliff, but the curve, yeah. Well, one of the men in the tool store saw this was going to happen, and he ran across the street and met her where she needed to be to help her down over the curve with the girls in the wagon, and went back to the store. So I thought that was meaningful. Of course, he couldn't speak to her hardly. He was in Italian, but just meaningful that they did that. All right, jumping back into this, I'll show you a few more, and then we'll get Andy up here to share his experiences. This is the other side, just a few pictures from Reggio Calabria, and this is one of the main streets in Reggio Calabria across the water there. What I want to say, there's lots of questions there about our faith. We had Danilo there that day with us. Sorry, not Danilo. Danilo couldn't come with us. So Lucky came along as our translator. Lucky's getting really good with Italian, so we use him as a translator as well. And he was sharing our faith and practice. He had questions about, of course, our dress and theology. There's a group of youth that came from Reggio Calabria over to Messina, some school youth with their teachers, and they were here in the park where we often are, in Piazza Cairoli, and they met our youth, and they were playing spike ball with them here, and had just a bunch of questions. This is the owner and his wife of the main mission apartment, and their daughter. Her name's Grazie, which is really thank you, that's her name. So that's right inside the door of the main mission apartment. These are these Muslim fellows. This is Usman here, or one of the Usman, I think there. And this is up in the town Lucky lived in for a while, Castanea. Some of his friends, Destiny here. And this is going to get wood, Elvin Martin, and we're going to get wood at a wood shop here. Fellow used an upright saw like that to cut it, and then we carried it back to the mission apartment, maybe about mission center, about a 20-minute walk, I think, or was it 25? But anyway, you'll see this is nothing compared to what Andy's group did. I'll let him show you that. And they did set up volleyball here in the park right by the mission center, and playing there with refugees and maybe some Sicilians. And one of the things the youth did was got some fishing poles and lures and so forth. And I don't know if they ever got a chance to fish with the migrants, but they were hoping to. And Christopher got a fish there. And that was the youth that were over last fall. Melody here is speaking to Juliana. She's from the Evangelical Church. She was quite instrumental in getting the classes lined up, the English classes lined up with their people. And she speaks English fairly well. So this is Nicholas. He's the one that, not a real good picture of him from the backside, but he's saying bye to Judy. He's the one that had, proofread our 25 Bible Stories book and said it's okay. And they served us pizza then on the last night. This was the last night we were there. A lot of partings and farewells and mixed feelings. But yeah, the Evangelical Church brought pizza in to the English class, and then the ladies brought these tea rings and whatever that they had made. These are some of Melody's pictures. I should let her maybe give this. I don't know, maybe you want to do this, Melody, or she's teaching some ladies here, I guess, and appreciate everything Melody did to get the English classes going there. I think this is after you came back the second time.
Yeah, this was back in February, I guess, when I was teaching. This was the smallest the beginner class has ever been. The first time I taught the beginner class, it was about 5, I would say, Italians, and then a whole bunch of refugee guys came in, and at a class about 25. It was kind of chaotic, but we went through it. And yeah, this picture here, I'm teaching them plurals, like 1 pencil, 2 pencils, different things like that. But those are all ladies from the Evangelical Church that came in. Yeah, and that's also the beginner class. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're running there. This was an activity we played. We had 2 rings and they went around and discussed different things, got them to use their English skills, talking about things, using things they had learned. Yeah. This is a video coming into our things that we're talking about.
Oh, it does go, there's the
Yeah.
apartment.
This is the kitchen apartment that we got while we were over there. Bethany, Lucy, and I lived in this apartment, the small kitchen. This is our dresses hanging outside. Basically, this is our kitchen window right here, and this is the bathroom window, and then this is the bedroom window. So to hang the wash outside, you have to lean out the kitchen window, hang a little bit of wash out, and go to the bathroom window, lean out, and a bunch of wash out. But, yeah. This is one of the bedrooms. There were 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and a kitchen. That's a picture of our coffee out the window to the courtyard one way.
All right, thank you, Melody. I'll just quick, yeah, we got Travis and Amy from Ontario, Canada. They could not be here tonight. They would have loved to be, but due to the COVID restrictions, they didn't come down. They stayed for 3 months over the winter, last winter. I think they went in November and stayed into January, something like that. And they had 2 little boys, and they're back at Lucky Joy's here with Michael, and it's some food here. The auto body man is with their little boys again, very good friends. Amy did a lot to make relationships with the refugee ladies. That work really grew when they were there. I think she won a lot of their hearts. A lot of them trusted her. And so they had the activities here at the Mission Center going on and playing with the children. This is a picture of her with Lovett that I talked about earlier. She's living north of Messina now, up somewhere in another, might be up near the tip of Italy. He's having a Bible study with Papa Mark, and they're playing on the seesaw. They would call them teeter-totters. And say goodbye to to one of the ladies. I know that was very hard on them. One of the ladies had to leave to go to another camp up in mainland Italy. Here they had, some friends at the Evangelical Church invited them for a meal one night. We had some good times with them. And this is, again, the Mexican pastor and his wife. And this was interesting. They went up to Lucky. Lucky had a job at a farmette up there on the mountain for a while with a little chicken farm and so forth. So they went up to visit him, and their boys were helping Lucky gather eggs and so forth. And I will let Andy share what the next pictures are about. Take a look at that.
Okay, we got there in January. Part of the work there assigned to us was put a ceiling up in the Mission Center. And in order to do that, we were trying to figure out how to make it safe in order to get that ceiling up, which we had seen some pictures earlier, step ladder on top of the table, and we thought, well, yeah, that might work, but in order to put that grid up, it's a drop ceiling. In order to put the grid up, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to move back and forth in order to screw the fasteners up and so on. And so we thought, if we get some lumber here, we'll build somewhat of a homemade scaffolding, put on 2 ladders, and be able to walk back and forth. So we went up to a lumber store to get this lumber. And drilling holes into that ceiling was quite challenging. Some of that concrete was extremely hard, some of it was soft, and trying to get something to hold was really going to be a real challenge. So anyway, after we were finished with the lumber, we made a stove top. We'll see more of that later. So we had bought a stove top. The kitchen top was not keeping up with the demand of cooking, so we ended up buying, it was kind of like a camp stove type top that we built a cabinet for then out of the lumber once we were finished using for the as scaffolding. There's a top there and then the gas tanks below.
And then Gerald was there. We got new decals for the windows. He brought those along, and this is installing them, trying to figure out what's level and what's square, and how high to put it, so on. So, cooking was a big part of our, or I should say, a very enjoyable part of our time there. The migrants really enjoyed cooking. We would go shopping with Lucky and different of them. They'd come down early in the day, and we would go to the market, get the supplies, get the flour, whatever. And this here, what they're making here, you have to stir it and pound it. It kind of gets to be more like a Play-Doh texture when they're ready to, once it's ready to eat. So what you do is take that and dip it into a sauce and swallow the lump. Is basically what you do. It's not much. It's not much taste to it. It's a little bit. You get a little taste, but the real flavor comes from the stew you dip it in. Yeah, it's interesting. We had quite some crowds some nights. I think our largest was around 75 when we fed in the evening. But they would come, you know, and more would come. You think, well, they're all here now. No, more would come in. And after a while, it's like, well, I'm not sure. I guess they're all here. No, another crowd would come in. So it was interesting. I think one evening we ended up making food three extra times. So this is Papa Mark. He didn't just sit around and complain. He did work sometimes. So we enjoyed Papa Mark. He was a challenge at times, and the body man next door came over, and he liked to play as well. We really developed a friendship with him, like was said before. If we needed a tool or something, we'd go over and try to, because we couldn't speak Italian, Signs and Wonders did a lot. So his son kind of knew a little bit of English, and we could get through pretty much, you know. If you need it was pretty easy to communicate with what you. And if you couldn't get through, we'd maybe bring him over to the mission center and show him what we were needing, whether it was a saw or a grinder or whatever it might be. We often played cards with the migrants after the service. This, I think, was after lunch. We would feed the migrants breakfast, and then we'd have a church service, and whoever one cared to, they would stay for lunch. We'd feed them lunch, and then in the afternoon we would spend time with them doing whatever. And see, this one here has we've been playing this one. Very athletic. He had coordination. So yeah, it's very interesting, you know, what they could do. Okay, this year's up in Piazza. They had water spigots along the streets or whatever, and they shine lights on them. It was very colorful. This is back to hanging track up, preparing the mission center for the drop ceiling. Like I said, it was a challenge to try and get some of those holes drilled. Some of them you just had to re-drill or just skip it, whichever worked best for you. It's just more getting that ceiling getting that grid work up. So, too much fun. All right, thank you, Andy. That means a lot more to hear the person share that actually took the pictures. These are some of Michael's, I think. This is Gerald, one of our bishops, and his wife Suzanne. Melody's parents actually were over there to visit, or when she was over there. This is the youth that were there at the time. Michael, Melody, and Bethany, and Andy's daughter, right? I don't know your name, but they were at I think this is, well anyway, one of the tours. This is Michael's pictures of going this time, here in October. He flew to Taper, Portugal. You can see the airport is kind of empty, and he sent me this picture. I guess they want people to wash their hands more. He's had to wear a mask the whole way over. It seemed to be a long time to wear a mask, but he did it. This is where he quarantined for 2 weeks in England before he went down to Sicily, because we couldn't fly him straight to straight to Sicily from here because of Italy's rules. But they were letting English people in, and England was also letting Americans in. So we tried to put the pieces together as a board. And so we're thankful, Lord, that it did work out for him to go to England and quarantine. And this was his desk, and I think that was the view out his window. And this is the train station. I think this is Buckingham Palace. I didn't ask him for sure. I think he is watching tonight on the live stream. He could correct me later. Double-decker buses, typical London and clocks. And then he made it to Messina, and got some familiar pictures there for us. They are doing another project that Andy had wished they had when he was there, and we wished when we were there, is having a water tank in the mission center. They turn the water off at the most inopportune time when you want to start washing dishes out in the evening or flushing the toilet even or whatever. So we got our own water tank installed, and the guy tapped into the water coming in off the street there and put it in the corner of the kitchen. For those of you that have been there, if you're standing at the kitchen at facing the cabinets, it would be off to your right. And that's the back to the cathedral building. So that is the end. I do have, of the main presentation, I do have something I could share with you if you aren't ready to walk yet. Michael just sent us an update today on a few things. Let me see if I can find it here. There's Michael. And I'll just try to play this here for you. I'm going to put the mic down. I just here in Sicily, just want to share a brief update on our current situation. This weekend we moved from an orange phase to a yellow phase with the coronavirus guidelines, so that will free us up to travel around a bit more. Also have a curfew in place, but businesses can do it at regular hours again. With the lower travel restrictions, I'll be able to travel over to the area where Lucky and Joy live, and also to the area where Lucky and Christian live, the two men from Castanea. Also, I'd like to take this chance to say a big thank you to each of you for your support of this work, financially, prayers, wisdom, input. This trip in particular, I spent 4 weeks in isolation as part of the compliance with the coronavirus restrictions for travel. I really appreciated the messages, the encouragement people sent. People would check in and see how it's going. So thanks a lot to each of you for that. One thing that has always struck me here in Italy is the value of relationships with the Italian people and also with the migrants. When you first arrived in Sicily, the Italian people were friendly people. They're courteous and helpful. But you're basically another tourist. They're interested in you, but not at the same level as after you've been here for a while. That's become especially clear in a relationship with the body shop man next to the mission center. We're
first came here, he was a little bit unsure of us, I believe, but he's become a real friend and value to us. And whenever we worked on the water tank project there in the Mission Center, in the water storage tank, we asked him about a reference for a good plumber, and he referred us to one of his friends. And that man did an excellent job there. He was really impressed working with his knowledge, and so I helped him there with some supply.
Yeah, okay, I think that it didn't all come in properly. I don't have internet here, and my phone's here, but it's back there, so yeah, Mike, thank you. All right, let me just straighten this up a bit. Thank you for your attention. Sorry for keeping you a little longer there. It's always a challenge to know how. One of the agonizing parts about preparing this was all the stuff that had to get cut out. I tell you, there was a lot of stuff that had to get cut out. So, and we still went over time a little bit. So thank you for your attention, and we've asked Brother Merle Nolt, he's Amanda's father, here tonight with the Weaverline Conference. Merle and Amanda are planning to leave their Lord willing in a few weeks over there. Maybe you should just, where are you? You just want to stand up for a moment? People know who you are. There you go. Merle and Amanda Brubaker, thank you. So thank you for giving of yourselves in this way. So we've asked our Father to come to the mic and share any closing remarks he has and lead us in a closing prayer, and then you can consider yourselves dismissed.
Good evening. Greet you in Jesus' name this evening. Blessing to be here and look at what may will be involved with Merle and Amanda as they serve over there. And as I thought about sharing, my thoughts went to one verse in Ephesians chapter 5. It's verse 8, says, "For ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as children of light." Just had to think. So as we walk as children of light, we have the light in us, the hope of the Lord Jesus, through the Lord Jesus Christ, and it gives us light that we can shine, whether in Nevada County, Lancaster County, or the world here, or the nation here, or across the sea. And just want to thank you as the board and Sue that got this together. Appreciate it. God bless you as you fulfill your capacity of leading here in the mission. We all just realize again that we're here to serve an Almighty God. He wants us to be those lights for Him. May you stand. Gracious, merciful Heavenly Father, we just again realize that we're just like a grain of sand in your hand. Yet you have created us in your image, and that we're here to be your servants, your ambassadors, to be your light to a dying world. So, dear Heavenly Father, we just pray your blessings upon each one of us as we go through each day of our lives, that we can truly allow your Spirit to guide us, to lead us, that we can truly be a light and a testimony to a dark world. And dear Heavenly Father, we just pray your blessings upon the mission, Hearts of Hope. Lord, bless those that have gone over, those that will be going over, and the board and the staff that is there. So, dear Heavenly Father, realize that the mission is in your hands. Lord, may it produce fruit to your honor and to your glory, not to the glory of man. And dear Heavenly Father, we just pray a special blessing for Merlin and Amanda as they travel over to England or on to Italy, Sicily. And Lord, just pray your blessing upon them as they serve there in Sicily. Lord, may you just use them as in your hands. Commit them onto Jesus, that, again, your will will be done. Again, we just pray your blessing upon us, each one of us. Guide us as we go to our respective homes. That safety may be granted to us. But again, thy will be done. Just thank you again for Jesus. And may Jesus be with us as we continue on through this summer. Commit all to you and pray this all in Jesus' name.